The cameras were rolling when David Letterman did something he'd never done in 33 years of television. He stopped mid-interview, stood up, walked around his desk, and sat beside a guest who was trembling as she held an unopened envelope. Inside were the last words her mother would ever speak to her. For the next 10 minutes, late-night television became something else entirely, a sanctuary for grief, a witness to love that transcends death, a moment that would change everyone watching. Sarah Mitchell was 29, sitting in the guest chair with an envelope that had waited 3 months to be opened, her mother's final letter, the last conversation they'd ever have. But opening it meant accepting that her mother was truly gone forever. The box had arrived after Linda Mitchell's funeral. 186 days ago, Sarah counted every morning. 29 birthday letters, each in her mother's careful handwriting. Stories Sarah had never heard, advice for ages Linda would never see her daughter reach. But there was a 30th letter, different paper sealed with wax, terrifyingly final. For Sarah's 30th birthday, when I'm only a memory. Sarah's 30th birthday was 3 months away. After she read this letter, there would be nothing but silence. The Late Show invitation came after Sarah's blog post went viral. The letters my mother left me had been shared 100,000 times in 48 hours. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know about the teacher who'd written letters to a daughter she'd never see grow up. Sarah almost said no. The thought of discussing her mother's death on national television felt like betrayal. But Linda had loved David Letterman. They'd watch together every night. Linda making popcorn in her faded pink robe, laughing at his jokes until tears streamed down her face. "That man understands what really matters," she'd say, pointing at the screen. "He sees people. Really sees them." 3 days before the taping, Sarah sat in her empty apartment staring at that final envelope. She'd held it so many times the wax was wearing thin. Sometimes she'd bring it to her ear, as if she could hear her mother's voice trapped inside. The temptation to tear it open was overwhelming. But once those words were read, once that final conversation was over, Linda Mitchell would be truly, completely gone. In the green room at the Ed Sullivan Theater, Sarah touched the envelope in her purse every few minutes. She hadn't planned to bring it, but that morning as she'd gotten dressed, something had pulled her to the box. Maybe it was Linda's voice in her mind. "Don't go alone, baby. Take me with you." The production assistant knocked. "Ms. Mitchell, 5 minutes." Sarah's hands were shaking. She pulled out the envelope one more time, ran her finger along the wax seal her mother had pressed with the ring Sarah had given her for Christmas. The same ring Linda wore to her last chemotherapy session, to her final doctor's appointment, to the hospital bed where she'd whispered, "I'm not really leaving you, sweetheart. I left you letters." "Ms. Mitchell?" Another knock. "We're ready." This was it. Whatever happened next would happen without her mother there to guide her. Or would it? "Sarah, thank you for being here," David said, settling behind his desk. "I read your blog post 3 times. It's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read about loss." Sarah managed to thank you, then talked about her mother. The elementary school teacher who taught for 34 years, the woman who could make anyone laugh and defended her people fiercely. When did she get sick? 3 years ago, ovarian cancer. She fought everything, chemo, radiation, surgery, but it spread. She was writing these letters the whole time? No, she started when I was born. The first letter is dated the day I came home from the hospital. She wrote them over the years, updating them. The letter for my 16th birthday has additions from when I was 10, 14, 16. Have you read all of them? All except one. David leaned forward. Which one? Number 30, for my next birthday, April 17th, 90 days from now. Sarah's voice broke. The birthday she won't be here for. The studio fell silent. David understood the weight Sarah was carrying. "Why haven't you read it?" "Because once I read it, that's it. Right now I still have one more letter, one more message, but once I read it..." Sarah couldn't finish. "Once you read it, she's really gone," David said quietly. Sarah nodded through tears. "As long as that letter is unread, There's still something new from her in the world, and I'm not ready for there to be nothing left. Do you have it with you? Sarah's hand went to her purse. Yes, I didn't mean to bring it. I just couldn't leave it home. What if you read it here tonight? You don't have to be alone when you open it. Read my mother's last letter on television? Or read it with 200 people who care about you, David said, his voice gentle but certain. With millions who understand loss, who've carried their own unopened letters, their own unfinished conversations. Your mother wrote those letters because she didn't want you to be alone. Maybe you shouldn't open the last one alone either. Sarah's mind raced. This wasn't what she'd planned. She'd come to talk about grief, about her mother's legacy, about the blog post that had touched so many hearts, not to crack herself open on national television, not to let millions of strangers witness the most private moment of her life. But David was right. Her mother had written 30 letters because she didn't want Sarah to face the world without her voice. Linda had thought of everything: birthdays, milestones, heartbreaks, triumphs. She'd even written a letter for when you need me most, sitting in that box at home waiting. Maybe opening the last one in silence in her kitchen, alone with nothing but memories. Maybe that was the wrong way to honor what Linda had tried to give her. She always said grief was meant to be shared, Sarah whispered, more to herself than to David. She used to tell her students, the things that hurt the most are the things we need to talk about the most. David leaned forward, his eyes gentle but certain. What do you think she'd want you to do? Sarah closed her eyes, and for just a moment she could almost hear Linda's voice. Don't you dare read my last letter alone, baby girl. You were never meant to carry anything alone. Okay, Sarah said, opening her eyes. Okay, let's do this. Let's give her one more classroom. She pulled out the envelope with shaking hands. It looked so small under the studio lights. Would you like me to open it for you? David offered. Sarah shook her head. This was hers to do. She slid her finger under the wax seal, removed the pages, and unfolded them with trembling hands. Dear Sarah, she began, her voice barely audible. That's when David made his move. He stood slowly, walked around his desk, and sat in the chair beside her. The studio audience held its breath. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't television. This was one human being refusing to let another face their darkest moment alone. A gesture that said, You're not alone in this. You'll never be alone in this. Sarah continued, If you're reading this, it means I'm not there for your 30th birthday. I'm sorry, baby. I wanted to be there for all of them. I wanted to see you blow out every candle, make every wish, celebrate every year I helped give you. The studio was crying with her now. Camera operators wiped their eyes behind their equipment. Production assistants in the wings stood frozen, tissues in hand. Even the hardened crew members who'd seen everything had never witnessed anything like this. David sat motionless beside her, tears streaming down his face, letting Sarah have this sacred moment while silently promising she wouldn't face it alone. But I got 29 years, the best years of my life. I got to watch you grow from a wrinkled little creature who screamed all night into this remarkable woman. I got to see you learn to read. I got to watch you fall in love with teaching just like me. I got to know you, Sarah, really know you. Sarah looked up at the audience, all these strangers crying for her mother. She continued, So here's what I need from you. Live. Don't just survive me. Live. Laugh too loud. Love too hard. Take risks I would have told you not to take. Make mistakes I would have worried about. Go to Paris like you always wanted. Ask out that teacher from work you think is too good for you. Quit your job if it makes you miserable. Start writing that book you keep talking about. Don't wait for someday, Sarah. Someday is today. Someday is now. Sarah had to pause. Her mother had known she was playing it safe, living small. And when you're scared, when you miss me so much, it hurts. Read these letters, because I'm in every word. I'm not gone, Sarah. I'm just quieter. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. You asked me once if I was scared to die. Yes, but you know what scared me more? That you'd think my death meant the end of my love. It doesn't. Death ends a life, not a relationship. I'm still your mother. Just because you can't see me doesn't mean I'm not there. David brought her tissues. She read the final paragraph. Happy 30th birthday, my beautiful girl. You are my greatest achievement. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. I love you more than all the words I've ever written. I love you forever. Mom. Sarah lowered the pages and sat in silence. The letter was read, but instead of feeling empty, she felt full. 200 people had heard her mother's voice. Millions more would when this aired. Sarah, your mother gave you her voice. Forever, David said quietly. Most people lose that when someone dies, but you'll never forget. You have 30 letters. But I want her. Not just her words. Her. I know, but the words are pieces of her humor, her wisdom, her love. That's all in those letters. Sarah looked at the letter in her hands, her mother's handwriting, the way she crossed her T's and looped her Y's, the little smudge where Linda had probably cried while writing these final words. She signed it, Mom, Sarah said, her voice breaking again. Even knowing I'd read this without her, even knowing she was dying, she was still my mom. She'll always be your mom, David said, his own voice thick with emotion. Death ends a life, Sarah, but it doesn't end a relationship. That doesn't end. That never ends. The audience rose as one. Not the polite, prompted applause of television, but something deeper. A standing ovation for grief, for love, for courage, for a mother who'd found a way to stay, for a daughter brave enough to let strangers witness her breaking and healing in the same moment. After the show, after the camera stopped, after the audience filed out still wiping their eyes, David found Sarah in his dressing room. She was still holding the letter, now carefully refolded but no longer secret, no longer just hers. Are you okay? He asked, settling into the chair across from her. I don't know, Sarah said honestly. I thought reading it would destroy me. I thought it would feel like losing her all over again, but it didn't. It hurt, God, it hurt, but it also felt like she was there, like she got to be there for my birthday after all. David nodded slowly. He'd hosted thousands of guests, heard countless stories, but this was different. This had changed him too. Your mother gave you something extraordinary, Sarah, not just the letters, the courage to share them, to let her love reach people she'll never meet. She would have liked that, Sarah said, smiling through fresh tears. She always said teaching wasn't about the subject you taught. It was about teaching people how to be human, how to love each other better. She's still teaching, David said quietly, through you, through tonight. That lesson is going to reach millions of people. 3 months later, on her actual birthday, Sarah posted the letter online. I'm sharing it because grief is lonely, and maybe someone needs to know they're not alone. The post was shared 1 million times. Sarah started the Legacy Letters Project, helping terminal patients write letters to their loved ones. A year later, she returned to The Late Show. How are you? David asked. Better. Not okay, but better. I still miss her every day, but helping others write their own letters, it makes her death feel less pointless, like her love is still rippling outward. Have you opened any other letters? Sarah smiled. Not yet. I'm saving them. For when I need her most. That episode became one of the most watched in Late Show history. Not as entertainment, but as witness. As proof that love survives death. That words carry souls. That grief shared becomes healing. Sarah keeps all 30 letters in a special box now. She's read the 30th one 17 times. Each time she hears something new in her mother's words. Each time, Linda's voice grows stronger, not weaker. On hard days, she opens the box. On good days, she opens the box. Because her mother was right, she's not gone. She's just quieter. That night on The Late Show, Sarah opened her mother's last letter. And in doing so, she opened a door for everyone who'd ever lost someone and thought they'd never hear that voice again, because love doesn't end when someone dies. It becomes words on a page, memories in your mind, lessons in your heart. And sometimes, if you're incredibly blessed, it becomes 30 letters that whisper across the silence, I'm still here. I'm still your mother. I'll always find a way to stay. Sarah is 31 now. She has the letter marked, When You Need Me Most, waiting in the box. She hasn't needed it yet, but she knows someday she will. And when that day comes, her mother will be there. Quieter, but there. Always there. Because that's what mothers do. They find a way to stay.